There's a lot of confusion right now about authenticity. On one hand, you're told, be authentic. On the other, you're told, not here, not at work, not in this space. Workplaces love to say authenticity is important, but there's always a but. And that but is where manipulation and gaslighting sneak in. This is why I encourage people to slow down, to really understand themselves, and to question what they're agreeing to every day. Because if you don't know yourself, if you don't know your values, if you don't pause long enough to challenge and expand them, you'll get pulled into systems that were never designed for your wholeness. I learned this the hard way in my own journey. I stepped into entrepreneurship because I was tired of trying to change the outside. I thought, okay, let me create something new. But I didn't know how to run a business. I didn't like sales, and yet I had to learn advertising, marketing, all the ways attention is manipulated. I didn't know this part of business. It made me realize how much our world runs on curated fear because fear keeps us in survival, and survival runs on money. And that's when it hit me. Money is one of the deepest programs of control. I know this because I've lived it and I still feel its pull. I don't come to you from a place of having it all figured out because I don't. I come to you as someone who has wrestled with survival, with money, with the temptation to put on a mask, and who refuses to stay here. Because here's the truth. It's too costly to leave yourself behind, too costly to work just to survive, too costly to be manipulated into silence. So, no, I'm not here to change the world, but I am here to be a part of the change that helps people remember who they are, that they are more than what they've been told, that their healing is their work, and that whatever they've overcome can be the foundation of what they create. That's why this message matters, because when someone tells you don't bring your authentic self to work, save it for dinner with your family, I hear the danger in that. And I want you to hear it too. If what you say has an effect on others, then we all need to pause and take inventory of where we're standing, who we are speaking to, and what our words create. Without that pause, ego speaks louder than essence, and the foundation you're standing on begins to shake. I know my work is to live from soul, not ego. And if you're listening, maybe that's your work too. When someone tells you, don't bring your authentic self to work, pause. Who is speaking? And what world shaped them? A former Secret Service agent may say this and mean it. In their world, professionalism equals discipline, obedience, and restraint. Authenticity equals risk, exposure, and danger. That makes sense in the White House or in the military or in the Secret Service. Those institutions exist to protect the system, not the person. But what happens when advice from that world gets handed to you, a teacher, a nurse, a small business owner, or someone working in a cafe? It distorts reality because in your world, trust, care, and connection are what matter most. That's the danger of unexamined advice, forgetting that every definition of professional comes from a specific structure with specific values. The systems that train soldiers and agents are not the same ones that hold classrooms, families, or communities. They create order, but they also create dissonance because a human being is not a mask, and you can't split your essence without cost. Even the word professional carries history. It comes from religion. To profess was to declare vows, to bind yourself to a rule or order. So to be professional meant to conform, no matter what. So when workplaces say be professional, often what they really mean is leave parts of yourself at home. speak only what aligns with our values. The real question is, what kind of world do you want to bring yourself into? And inside that world, what does authenticity look like? Every structure trains people differently. Medicine trains doctors to detach so they can cut through crisis without being paralyzed by empathy. And the emotional labor often falls to nurses. Soldiers are trained to obey without hesitation because hesitation can cost lives. Politics runs on image and performance. Authenticity is a liability because image is currency. Corporate businesses runs on profit. Even wellness or inclusion often show up as branding more than practice. These systems are built for survival, power, and control. They are not built for wholeness. So when advice from those worlds gets dropped into everyday places, workplaces, classrooms, cafes, studios, clinics, it fractures people. Which structures have shaped your own view of professionalism? When you hear be professional, pause and ask, professional, by whose rules? Authenticity is not ego. It's not blurting out your trauma. It's alignment, showing up grounded in your values, responsible for your presence without splitting yourself into two. When a job asks you to cut off your voice, values, or essence, it drains your nervous system. That's the cost. That stress isn't just workload, it's stress of disconnection. Profession equals vow, aligning your words with an external order. Career equals a track, a race, a path predefined. Occupation equals what seizes your time and energy. Employment equals being folded into someone else's design. And vocation equals a call, a voice from within. 4 of these are about being seized, used, or controlled. Only one, vocation, begins with your inner voice. So if your workplace claims to value wellness and authenticity, but demands professionalism that erases the self, that's not alignment, that's contradiction. The real question is, whose definition of professional are you living under? And if authenticity is your non-negotiable, where can you bring your whole self or create something new where you can? Let's take a teacher, for example. A teacher who treats teaching as a vocation may innovate in the classroom, while one treats it only as a profession may just follow rules and established methods. This difference in approach shapes not only the teacher's experience, but the entire learning environment. The teacher who sees their role as a vocation might weave personal experiences into lessons, creating an atmosphere that feels alive and relatable. They spark curiosity, foster critical thinking, and invite genuine connection with their students. Their presence becomes a source of inspiration. And in contrast, a teacher who views their role solely as a profession may focus on compliance, making sure every box is checked, every standard is met. While order is maintained, the classroom can become a place of adherence rather than exploration. Students may disengage, sensing the absence of passion or personal investment. This distinction plays out far beyond the classroom. Employees who connect deeply with their vocation tend to be more passionate, motivated, and fulfilled. They aren't just clocking in and out. They are contributing to something larger, something that resonates with their values. On the other hand, those trapped in a purely professional mindset often feel drained. They sacrifice parts of themselves to fit a mold, conforming to an internal definition of professionalism that doesn't honor who they are. Over time, this can lead to burnout and dissatisfaction. Ultimately, the challenge is to define authenticity for ourselves, to ask, where do my values intersect with my work? And what spaces inside existing structures or the ones I create allow me to live in that alignment? It takes courage to confront systems that diminish authenticity and commitment to seek spaces where vocation and professionalism meet. When organizations foster this kind of culture, people feel empowered to bring their whole selves to work. The result isn't just personal well being, it's innovation, creativity, and a genuine engagement. Those organizations that truly value authenticity embrace the unique voices of their people. They recognize that wholeness brings individualism, and diversity of perspective fuels growth. So, as you navigate your own path, hold this question close. Whose definition of professional defines your work? And how can you honor your vocation while shaping a professional landscape that nurtures authenticity? If you spend 8 hours a day leaving your authentic self at home, you're not just being professional, you're at war with yourself. That splits, drains your energy, frays your nervous system, and slowly erodes connection. We call it burnout. We call it a mental health crisis, but at its core, it's stress of disconnection. When we force a separation between personal identity and professional life, we create an ongoing conflict. This continuous performance, putting on a mask to fit into a culture that doesn't accept our true selves, leads to isolation, frustration, and exhaustion. Over time, this disconnection doesn't just show up as burnout. It can manifest as anxiety, depression, or a deeper satisfaction with life. It doesn't stay at work either. The energy spent maintaining a facade often spills into our relationships at home, reducing the presence and care we can give to the people we love. Ultimately, bringing our true selves into our work isn't about individual well-being. It strengthens collaboration, fuels creativity, and builds productivity. When our personal values align with our professional roles, we not only feel healthier, whole, but also create more engaged, innovative, and connective workspaces. So instead of asking, am I being professional? Ask, does this structure allow me to bring my whole self? Do the values here align with mine? Am I contributing my gifts, or am I simply being used? Professionalism doesn't have to mean suppression. It can mean care. It can mean responsibility. It can mean presence, but only if we redefine it from the inside out. So here are some practical pathways into redefining professionalism. Consistent self-reflection. Take time to understand your values, strengths, and passions. Reflect on how these aspects can align with your work life. Journaling or meditative practices can help clarify your thoughts. Clarify your values. Write down your top 3 non-negotiables, say respect, honesty, and collaboration. And map those out. Understand what each one really means to you. Use them as your compass. Measure your daily actions against these values so professionalism becomes value-driven, not rule-driven. Practice emotional regulation. Authenticity doesn't mean reacting raw. Simple tools, a breath before a meeting, a pause before responding. Let you bring presence without suppression. Communicate with grounded clarity. Instead of softening your truth or hiding behind politeness, practice a 3-part approach. Here is what I see. Pause, reflect, and consider both sides of the situation before speaking. Here's what I value. Name the principles guiding you and revisit them clearly and regularly because values can shift as you grow. And here is what I propose. Offer a constructive next step or solution. This turns honesty into dialogue that is not only direct, but also thoughtful and collaborative. Watch stress responses. Under stress, under pressure, does leadership revert to control and silence, or do they invite voices in? Check alignment. If wellness is advertised but workloads are unsustainable, it's branding, not culture. Notice how difference is treated. Can people with diverse perspective, styles, or identities thrive, or are they quietly nudged to conform? And observe communication norms. Are questions welcomed? Is feedback safe? Or is professionalism code for silence? And number 3, what organizations can do. Redefine professionalism altogether. Host open conversations where employees can create what professionalism looks like, grounded in respect, responsibility, and care, not conformity. Build feedback loops. Use anonymous surveys, structured debriefs, or open forums to hear how policies land in practice. Normalize mental health tools. Offer breath breaks, coaching, or peer support. Signal that presence and humanity matter as much as productivity. Reward integrity, not just numbers. Celebrate employees who uphold values under pressure, not just those who meet targets. Hire and train leaders in self-regulation. If managers can't regulate themselves, they'll demand suppression from their teams. Emotional intelligence must be as critical as technical skill. Provide opportunities for growth. Encourage personal and professional development programs to empower employees to develop their own unique strengths and share them within the workplace. When I speak about ego and healing, the message always comes back to slowing down, pausing, reflecting, asking, what am I agreeing to every day? What values am I living by? Your inner relationship is the most important relationship you will ever have. It's how you see the world and how you see others. We can't see life through someone else's lens, only through our own. That's why taking advice like, don't bring your authentic self to work, is very misleading. It reflects one person's world, shaped by their structures and values. For someone in the Secret Service, authenticity feels dangerous because their survival depends on control, discipline, and secrecy. They cannot show vulnerability because vulnerability is not considered a strength in their system. So when you say professional, they're telling you, you will not see my true self in public because my profession doesn't allow it. But what works in their world doesn't work in a world where we are trying to bring humanity back into our work. If you're a nurse, a teacher, a creator, an artist, you need authenticity. Without it, your work loses connection, creativity, and care. The same is true when I look at people like Bill Gates. His sense of reality is shaped by money, status, and global control. When asked the price of a banana, he guessed $25 because his relationship with money is abstract, disconnected from survival. For him, authenticity would threaten the foundation of his mission. His bottom line is profit. His values are aligned to that mission, not to daily human experience. So trying to argue with him on authenticity or human connection is exhausting because he doesn't see through that lens. His world runs on a different program. This is why reflection is critical. If we don't pause to know ourselves, to clarify and challenge our own values, we end up fighting systems that were never designed for authenticity in the first place. You cannot dismantle a system like that by arguing with its own terms. The real work begins with your own system, your own beliefs, your agreements, your inner relationship. You can stop trying to force authenticity into a place where it will never belong, and instead choose spaces, relationships, and structures that align with who you really, truly are. When you root in that, you can see the truth of what others stand for without being pulled into their distortion. Authenticity and professionalism don't have to clash, but only if we name the difference between ego and essence and choose environments where our vocation, our true call, has room to breathe. The real danger isn't being told to be professional. The danger is accepting someone else's definition without asking where it came from or whether it fits your life. In the end, you have to decide, will you run someone else's race, or will you listen for your own vocation, your own call? Both have a cost. The question is, which cost are you willing to live with?